Hi, writers, and welcome to 10 Steps to Getting Published. I hope you're here because you have always dreamed of writing a book and you just haven't made it happen yet. Or maybe you've started writing that book. Maybe you've finished and you don't know where to go next. Maybe you need help editing or knowing why you're not getting a contract, why it's not selling. You want to know what to do next on your writing journey. Well, I'm glad you're here today for that next step. And I am grateful to be able to help you on the next part of your journey. So today is an overview of the course 10 Steps to Getting Published. So I'm going to go through each step and explain it just a little bit. Hopefully that will help you if it whets your appetite for more so that you can write that book, write that next book, take that next step to getting published, that you'll come back for either the course 10 Steps to Getting Published or one of my other courses on the Christian Writing Academy. Let's dive in. Step one is pretty obvious. You write. So you're not ever going to write that book if you don't sit down and write. That doesn't mean you need to know everything about writing before you sit down. If you wait to know everything you think you ought to know, it won't ever happen. And maybe you're there. I can't tell you how many people that I've talked to over the years since I became an author who said, "Oh, I've always dreamed of writing a book. I just haven't made it happen." That happens. We have a dream. We want to make it happen, but we're not sure how, or it doesn't get high enough up on the priority list to make it happen because we have life, we have work, we have family, we have other obligations, we have responsibilities, we have ministries. Life is full. All of us have a lot of things in life, but if you're here, if you're watching this video, then hopefully you're ready to make writing a priority. The first thing I recommend is figure out a time where you can make that happen. Whether you can take off a day of work or you can get up an hour earlier every morning or set aside a time before you go to bed every night. Just block that time out, whether it's an hour, a day, a weekend. Just sit down and make it happen. Because you're not ever going to write that book until you sit down and write. Okay, step two, research writing. And maybe that's why you're here. Maybe you're researching writing. You're trying to find out more about how to write a book well, how to get published. What are all of those steps? What do they look like? Well, all of that information is important. You want to know, what are readers looking for? What is the type of writing that readers read? What is the type of writing that readers come back to? What are agents and publishers looking for? Do your research. Maybe that research is going to be the courses you take here at Writing Christian Academy. Maybe you find some other blogs and websites through my resource page that are helpful to just get those industry important information that's out there. Don't just sit down and write not knowing what you're doing or what your goal is, what your target is, how you're going to meet the needs of the readers that are in the market. That's what I did when I first started writing, and it took me a long time to find success, a long time to get a publishing contract, to get published, and then I finally got on that track and I learned a lot along the way. I wish I had taken more time in the very beginning to learn more, but I did take the time. I studied writing, I studied publishing, I joined groups, I went to seminars, went to conferences. I recommend all of those things as well in your learning process, and to meet other writers, and I'll say more on that in a little bit. But write and research writing, research the market, research what's out there, what's selling. Okay, step three, gather a writing support group. Now, this could be friends that are supportive of you and your venture. It could be family members, or you can look for writers groups online. American Christian Fiction Writers, ACFW, is a fabulous group to join where other Christian writers gather together. You can join support groups, you can join critique groups, you can read blogs, you can get information on conferences in your state and just regional areas, groups that may be local to you, online groups, in-person groups. There's a wealth of a community out there for other writers and authors as they gather together, because none of us do it in isolation. There might be that one random person that writes and does it really well and does it in isolation, but really the writing community is very supportive and very important on your journey. I get isolated sometimes in my writing, and then I'll go to a writer's group or a conference or a seminar or talk to somebody, run into somebody at an event who has also written a book, and it just feeds my author soul to talk over the craft with someone else who has been there, done that, has that passion. There's a lot of encouragement in that, and I think that is an essential part in taking your steps to getting published, is being around other authors and writers. And I include going to writers' events. So those conferences, those seminars, a lot of areas have writers' groups. There's about 4 or 5 within an hour, hour and a half of me, and there's one that just started that's within half an hour, which is a blessing. I haven't been able to go yet. I'm still trying to make that happen. But go to those writers' events. Sometimes it's easier to do a monthly group where they have speakers come in, they have critique partners, they share updates and encouragement. Sometimes it's easier to go to that once a year conference. Almost every state has one. I just found one in Hawaii, and so that's my goal for 2025. But they're out there. Just do a search for writers groups. There's a lot of information on the web. It's easier than ever to find those writers groups and writers events. And so that's kind of 2 wrapped up in one. So step 4 and step 5, go to those events, go to the conferences, go to the seminars, go to the workshops. A lot of times your local library will have those, or your local writers group, where you won't necessarily have to join, but you can just go to some of their events. There's a lot of options out there, even in the Christian arena. Now, there's value in going to secular writers groups and conferences and events as well, because the craft in general is the craft. Just use discernment when you're looking for those. I think most of the time they're going to be really helpful, and there's hopefully not going to be a lot of information that won't be helpful or will be detrimental. Make that choice. You pray about it and see if that's something that you should be involved in, or you want to hold it out for that Christian writers group. And some areas are going to have more options than other areas. So branch out a little bit. You might need to be willing to travel an hour, 2 hours, some places 3 hours. It depends how important it is to you. And I really, really, really firmly believe that joining writers groups, going to writers events, finding that support group around you, whether it's other writers or just your family and friends, those really are essential to the journey of becoming an author. Step 6, write more. Now, hopefully while you're joining writers groups, while you're gathering your support group around you, going to conferences, seminars, workshops, you're continuing to write. Remember, we talked about set that time aside, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, whatever you can fit into your life. But you want to keep writing. I have a meme I really like, and it's Dory from Finding Nemo, and it says, just keep writing, 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 writing. Because the more you write, the better you will get. You will hone your craft. You'll hone all the skills of writing well. You'll hone your voice as a writer, because we all have our voice. We all have particular ways that we say things and write things and build characters and build our plots. And the more you write, the more you will build all of those things that will help you improve your writing and write with excellence. We all have slumps. It's happened. When we were building our house and I was spending 8 to 12 hours a day either digging a French drain or painting walls or laying floors or helping my husband run wire, I did not get a lot of writing done during that time. There's been other times where we've had a death in the family or I've had surgery. Life happens. That is totally understandable. However, always get back on track. And your support group can be very important for that, to help you get back on track. Determine if this is important to you, you make it a priority. And so even if you go a week or a month or 6 months without writing, get back to it. Sit down and make yourself write. And I will tell you, I love writing when I have inspiration. I have that spark and idea, and it energizes me and I'm ready to go. I love those moments, but there have been times where I'm like, I'm just going to sit down and write this book because I have a contract for this book, or I've announced to my readers the next book in this series is coming out, and I may not feel like writing, but I sit down and write word after word, sentence after sentence, paragraph after paragraph, and those turn into chapter after chapter and turn into a book. Not every book that I've written has been a passionate, yes, let's go get this story. Let's take these characters to the end of their journey. I would love every writing experience to be like that, but that just isn't reality. So even if you don't feel like writing, if you want to be an author, if you want to get published, you've got to make it a priority and sit down whether you feel like writing or not, because you're getting something on paper. You can come back later and make it good, make it excellent. That's what revising is all about, and editing. And a lot of times if you just have the story down and you come back to it, you're like, oh, this is better than I thought, but yeah, this needs to be tweaked here and that needs to be tweaked there. And it turns into a really good story because you were willing to sit down and write. So that's step number 6 if you're keeping track. So step number 7 is to get other eyes on your writing. This is a super important step. I have 3 people in my life who I will throw my books to before I ever do anything else. Number 1, because they're really sweet and they're clamoring for my books and they're like, when's the next one going to be ready? I'm ready for the next book. And the other part is they're really good at catching my typos, catching inconsistencies. They're kind of like my pre-editing editors. Find those people in your life where you can trust will be honest and give you honest feedback about your writing, because that's important for helping you improve your writing. Now, there is also huge value in a professional editor. Now, whether that's you can get a contract with a publisher and that editing will be included in that process. But a lot of times when you're starting out writing, because you don't know all of the things about writing with excellence that an agent and a publisher are looking for, it's hard to get started with a professional editor through a contract. So a lot of times you'll have to pay a professional editor. That is one of the reasons that I do contract professional editing, because I want to use that as an opportunity to help a writer's dreams come true, to get published with a book written with excellence. And I love to teach as I edit, because I don't want you to have to come back to me and pay those fees on your 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th book, because you're going to have gotten to a level where you can write it that way, go over it yourself, and go get that contract. Or a lot of people, if you're self-publishing, I also highly recommend using a professional editor, because if you just throw your book out there and your readers catch lots of typos or inconsistencies in your characters and your plot, they're not going to come back for more. They're not going to recommend your book and give it a good review online, and that's what you want. So you want to get those other eyes on your manuscript and kind of cover your heart a little bit. It is hard to see a lot of red, a lot of recommendations, a lot of questions on your book. But just remember, it's not a grade. It's not like, oh, you failed at writing because all these marks are on there. No, it is a learning process, and that is an important step to becoming published with a book that's written with excellence, because there's almost always room for improvement. Hopefully, after you've gone through 3, 4, 5 edits, you've got it. It's ready to go. There's always, always, always room for improvement when we first write a book. So get those extra eyes on your manuscript. Then Step number 8, revise, revise, revise. Go back over that manuscript from start to finish completely. Look for the typos. Look for the incorrect grammar. Look for the missing words. Look for the extra words. Look for the inconsistencies in your plot or your character. Look for the things that you've added in that may be more of a personal nature than a benefit to your story. When we talk about the essential elements of excellent writing in that course, I kind of cover all of those things that you want to look for when you are editing and revising your manuscript for publication, because those are the important things that you need to look for and elements you want to make sure that you have in your book to draw your readers in, to keep them engaged, to make sure that your book is one that will keep them turning the page, because we want them to keep turning the page all the way to the end of the book and then come back for more, clamor for more. When is your next book? So revise, revise, revise. Step 9. Can you believe it? We're already on step 9. Now, I'm just covering the surface on these things. There's a lot of details in each level here that I discuss more in the course and other courses, obviously, but I want to just give you that foundation, make sure you have the basics of what you need, and kind of have in your mind, okay, this is the process. These are the areas I'm stronger in. These are the areas I need to grow in. So that way you can kind of pick, okay, so I'm not great at character development. Let me learn more about that. Or my plots could use some buffing up. I need to learn more about that. Or across the board, I need to learn more about grammar and revising and editing and how to write with active voice, all of those different aspects, so that you can take that next step, because we all have strengths. We all have areas where we can grow. And so this is to help you figure that out. Step 9, choose a path. So for me, I always dreamed of being traditionally published, and I tried to go down that path very early. It did not work out well because my writing was not good in the beginning. I eventually self-published several books. My children's books have done pretty well. I'm excited about moving on to a new children's book series very soon. My novel was okay. I would love to go back and revise it and release a different edition, but unfortunately the file has gotten lost over, I think I'm on my 3rd or 4th computer since then, and unfortunately the file didn't get transferred. And so I know why in the very beginning I did not get an editing contract, and I ended up going the self-publishing route for a variety of reasons. There were a couple of different ones, but then I did end up getting a contract with a traditional publisher. I published one book, and then I got a second contract for a book series. So that one book, In an Instant, is a mystery. It was published a few years ago. My 9-book series has all been turned in. They're with my editor. They're going through all of the processes. So there's initial editing, and then I get the book back and go over it myself. Then it goes back to my editor, and then it goes to a third set of eyes. We have cover design, we have formatting. There's a lot of steps. There's some marketing things I have to submit. There's, questions, if you want questions in the back of the book, the dedication, all these wonderful things. I ended up choosing the hybrid path. Well, kind of. The hybrid path kind of chose me, because even though I was self-published, I still wanted to be traditionally published. So that is what I sought, what I aimed for, and by the grace of God, I was able to accomplish. Choose your path. You can do a hybrid path. You can go completely self-published, or you can go the traditionally published route. Just know it's going to take a little bit more time. But there's a lot of benefits to both. Self-publishing, you have complete control. You can do your own editing, your own cover design, or you can contract those things out and pay for them. With traditional publishing, all of that stuff, editing, cover design, formatting, all of those things are included. but there's a lot of competition out there. So just be aware of what the differences are, what the benefits are, what the limitations are, and know either way, whether you choose the self-publishing route or whether you choose the traditional publishing route, you want to write with excellence. Because regardless of which way you go, you want readers to read your books, you want readers to want to read your books and to keep coming back. And that takes writing with excellence. So we're finally to the end in step 10, and that is hitting submit. And that's whether you're self-publishing, you upload it, whether you use Kindle Direct Publishing, otherwise known as KDP, or Ingram Spark, or Draft to Digital. There are several very cost-efficient options out there for self-publishing today. Some people recommend you use all of them. I have been aiming to get my books on Draft to Digital. I haven't done it yet. That's my goal. I guess that'll have to be my goal for next year because of starting the Christian Writing Academy and working on some other projects this year, trying to do 10 cozy mysteries, start another fit series, and hopefully finish it. A couple of other books I've started over the years. This is the year of finishing books for me. So I hope to get to Draft to Digital. You can do that and KDP, but be careful because KDP, if you do, and I forget what it's called at the moment, but there's a choice you can make where it has to be exclusively on KDP for the first 90 days. So make sure you read the fine print, whether you choose Draft to Digital, KDP, Ingram Spark, or another self-publishing entity out there. Or you hit submit to submit your manuscript, your cover letter, your concept to a publisher or an agent. Agents are still important part of the publishing process for many writers. They want the agent to do the work of submitting. So you only have to submit it once. And then the agent takes care of all of the 5 publishers, 10 publishers, 20 publishers. They are keeping up with the industry. They know who's looking for what. They have relationships with editors. They know, okay, this is a romance maybe, but this publisher likes this type of romance and this one likes this one. Or this editor only likes mysteries without romance and this one likes mysteries with romance. So instead of doing all of that research yourself, you can research agents, get an agent, and then they take care of all of those details. But submit it. If your dream is getting published, know that that is attainable. Yes, it's hard work. Yes, it takes time. Yes, it takes learning. But our dreams don't come true just by wanting them to come true. We have to work at them to make them come true in this instance. So let's go over the 10 steps. I don't want you to forget anything. I want to encourage you, even if you write them down, say, okay, I'm going to do this. Step 1, make a schedule for writing. Step 2, study writing. Step 3, find that support group for your writing. Join writers groups, go to writers events. Write more. We want that down there because we can do all the other things, but if we don't sit down and write, we're not going to end up with a book. Get someone else's eyes on your manuscript. Revise, revise, revise. Choose a path, traditional or self-published or hybrid. Maybe you have different books, you want to go different paths, and then submit. You are on your way to writing a book and getting it published. I hope I can help more. I do one-on-one coaching. I edit for people to help them take those next steps in their book once they have that. I'm willing to review plots. I'm willing to review your first 5 pages of your manuscript. You would be amazed what you can glean from just the first 5 pages of a manuscript and what direction it's going and what needs to be tweaked. I would love to help you out with any of those services or all of those services. I hope to see you back for another course or coaching or reviewing your plot or your first 5 pages, because it is my dream to help your writing dreams come true.